I know we're on information overload, but you can't get enough from the man who is the Treasury Secretary of the United States, Steven Mnuchin. Good to always have you back, Mr. Secretary.
Great, Jim. Always good to be with all of you.
Okay, phenomenal, successful, this program. Phenomenally. Imagine so successful that we need more money already, which is great because it's small and medium-sized businesses. Community banks do a terrific job. Going to go into some of the larger banks not doing as well. But can we now do the $1 trillion war bond? 1.75% I'm willing to give you. We know that Speaker Pelosi's in favor of it. We know that Larry Kudlow's in favor of it. We need the money. I want to give the Treasury money. Why? To put people to work I feel helpless. So do 317 million other people. Can we have a way, like March of Dimes against polio, to give you money so you can beat COVID?
Jim, here's my idea for the 50-year. We're going to be auctioning off 30 years and 20 years, buy one of each, and it's the 50-year. That'll give us twice as much money, and we appreciate your efforts.
So 50-year, we would be able to, can we earmark it, or is it just a 50-year Treasury? And can't we just note it as COVID so that we know who our enemy is? It's a common enemy, Democrat and Republican.
Jim, we're raising over $2 trillion, as you know, for our COVID relief. We're raising it all across the curve, and we have tremendous demand for U.S. Treasuries. Everybody wants to buy U.S. Treasuries. It's the safe haven, so it's being very well received. And I just want to comment, the SBA event we had yesterday with the president at the White House yesterday, it was a great success. He got to speak to both community bankers as well as the large bankers. Again, we have 3,500 lenders up on the system, with many more getting signed up every day. And I want to assure all small businesses out there, we will not run out of money. The president has asked us to go back to Congress. We hope they pass this tomorrow and Friday. And we want to assure everybody, if you don't get a loan this week, you'll get a loan next week or the following week. The money will be there.
All right, Mr. Secretary, I support this program with everything I have. I think it's fantastic. The community bankers have stepped up in a way that I cannot believe. And the small and medium size are going to be saved by that. How about the large guys? I go to Citi's site today, and I'm pro-Citi. I think great bank. It says Citi's working with the SBA to provide relief to small business owners. While we are working as quickly as we can, we are not yet able to accept applications for the Paycheck Protection Program. Meanwhile, Charlie Scharf, one of the greatest bankers, Wells Fargo, the biggest small business lender in the country, is constrained by something that Janet Yellen did during the Friday before the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Let's change that. They should be able to give all the loans they want. We need Wells and Citi involved if this thing's going to be a success, Mr. Secretary.
Well, let me just comment. I think overall the banks have done a phenomenal job, as you've said. Some of them are further ahead. I just want to reemphasize this was just launched last Friday, so I mean we're literally 3 days into this. I can tell you the Fed has put out a notice that they're going to be doing a program, a 13-3 program, such that they can buy these loans. So that's going to provide, in excess of $350 billion of liquidity. I know the Fed is speaking to all the banks, so we want to make sure both the SBA, the Fed, Treasury, everybody's working with all the banks. Let me just comment, there were a lot of banks that were signed up that hadn't used this system in a long time. The SBA has signed up over 30,000 individual people to be entitled on the system, and every day they sign up thousands more, because at every single bank you have lots of people that need to be entitled to approve these loans.
Okay, well, I think I think the system is great. I know when I pick up the Times today, small business borrowers frustrated by loan delays. Well, I mean, it's only been a couple of days, and I know you worked all weekend, and everyone's working all weekend, and it's certainly not for lack of work. I know that there's technology issues, but no one ever thought this would happen. But it does lead me to think, why don't we do something in the interim for everybody who's in a jam, mortgage-wise and rent-wise? What's the problem with just, instead of just canceling mortgages, which I don't think is good for the system, we just tack on 30 days to the end of a mortgage, 30 days to the end of a lease, and we literally pay people to stay at home so we can beat this thing, get the testing that we need, and open up America at the time when, let's just shoot for something. How about we shoot for the All-Star game, something that is all-American? We got to shoot for a date, Mr. Secretary, and it can't be wild high.
Well, I know the president is working on a date. I know he wants to reopen the economy as soon as we get the appropriate all clear and things are looking good, and I know he wants to do that soon. As it relates to mortgages, let me just say most of the mortgage market, I think is Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, FHA, VA. As it relates to all of those, we've already put out guidance that borrowers that have issues can call up, and as you said, their payments will be tacked up on the end. And my understanding is that the banks, for their own portfolio, have already instituted a very similar issue. So where we could mandate people on government-related loans, we did, and we've encouraged the banks to work on the private loans. So I know that's added much-needed relief to borrowers who are having issues in these difficult times.
Mr. Secretary, it's David Faber. Speaking of relief, I've noted this in the past, and I know you're aware of it. Companies with more than 500 employees who are not investment grade, who conceivably are in need of a lot of capital right now. Is Treasury thinking about a new plan to try to address that group? I've heard that there is at least this idea that a lot of large investors might be putting money in towards a fund that could then be levered by Treasury to access capital for these businesses at some appropriate interest rate. Is that a real effort being looked at by Treasury right now?
It's a very real effort. It's not something we're just thinking about. It's something we've been actively working on for the last week. We've been having daily calls with the Fed. This would be a 13-3 facility that we call the Main Street Lending Facility for companies that are, as you said, over the 500 persons and below the corporate facilities that we've announced. And we hope to have an announcement this week with the details on that and get it up and running as soon as we can.
Mr. Secretary, on Monday, the president removed the chairman of the federal panel that was overseeing the CARES Act, Glenn Fine. He had been acting Pentagon Inspector General, and he was going to be the Inspector General for the CARES program. He's been replaced by another gentleman with that job previously at the EPA. Can you tell us why the president did that, if you know why, and whether or not that's going to create any tension with Congress when you do go back for more money? Because we've certainly gotten statements from the likes of Nancy Pelosi indicating they were unhappy with that move by the president.
Well, I think the president thought that the appropriate oversight was very important, and that's why he wanted to move forward quickly and nominate someone for this position. I think, this is a new inspector general that was set up under the CARES Act. It's someone who has a lot of experience. And I look forward to working with him. I think, as you know, we very much support proper oversight. There's also going to be a congressional oversight committee. We have enhanced disclosure. So I think the American public deserves to know what's going on, given the amount of money that we'll be putting out.
Mr. Secretary, you say the president wants to reopen the economy soon, and Kudlow yesterday did say that he would await the green light from health officials. But once that process begins, are you going to prioritize states that, say, contribute to GDP? Are you going to prioritize states that were either most or least affected by the crisis in the first place?
Well, my expectation is that we'll be opening it up based upon medical conditions. So obviously, we'd like to open up as much GDP as we can. But, my expectation is that places like New York are going to take a little bit longer. And there's many areas of the country that have very little disease and have been very effective at combating this. So I think we'll be looking at it on a medical basis.
All right, Mr. Secretary, I think many people in this country are sick of the blame game. We're sick of who did this wrong and who did that wrong. Enough already. Let's think positive, and let's think what's going forward. I say we got to keep the pressure on, not the media, not the Senate, not the Congress, not the president. Keep the pressure on COVID. COVID is the enemy. So why don't we offer a big prize to anybody who tries to who gets this thing dead? Why don't we offer a March of Dimes-like prize where we found out Dr. Salk at University of Pittsburgh killed the thing. No one thought he could do it. Why don't we offer a plan? Some people offer a plan to get the economy restarted, and we give them a prize. We give a biotech company a prize. I think we got to change the spirit here, Mr. Secretary. There is way too much complaining and bitching and not enough about how do we kill this thing called COVID, which is who unites us.
Well, Jim, I agree with you. The best way to open up the economy and kill this is for medical breakthroughs. And let me just say, we have the most advanced medicine in the world. We already have all the medical professionals working together. I don't think they need a big prize. I think they all understand there is a big prize, which is killing this virus. This is a giant project, and I think we have the best minds working on this, and I look forward to great advances. I know the president has already approved many drugs for compassionate use. I think there's more drugs that he's going to be approving. I know we have now corporate America working together to basically kill this virus and provide the needed relief of various different medical tools.
There's no doubt about it. Corporate America wants to even do more, but is looking for guidance from you, sir. You're a business person. So let me give you some things I hear. Retail's basically closed in this country, except for Costco, Walmart, Target, and Amazon. But you know what? There's a lot of space and factory space to be able to build, instead of shirts, instead of clothes, instead of dresses, we can build gowns. But someone has to say to these companies, listen, this is wartime. And you got all those factories overseas in Thailand, you got them in Vietnam. We want to see gowns, and we want to see them now. Not just planes from damn China. Why can't we have these retailers do what we need? Make masks, make gowns. Because there's a thing called the Defense Production Act, and we used to tell GM that they got to go make planes. Why can't we tell these retailers you got to go make gowns?
Jim, I think as you suggested, a lot of them are making gowns. A lot of them are now making masks. These things do take some time to ramp up. So in the interim, we're buying everything we can. I know every day I kind of get suggestions from people that I forward on to the appropriate people in the White House. So I know there's a whole team over in the White House that is working on these supplies to make sure we get these supplies and we get, as you said, U.S. manufacturing. I know the president is very focused on the pharmaceutical issue. He's been working with companies there. So I can assure you there's a lot of people working on this, and we agree with you.
All right, Mr. Secretary, here's a radical action. I'm going to congratulate you on a program that's amazing, unprecedented, great speed, and has helped community banks. I know that's unprecedented to be able to do something just outwardly positive, but you know what? The hell with it. Good job, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for calling in.
Thanks, Jim. Great to be with all of you.